let's play a game. Do you like movie podcasts? Because we're talking movies, we're talking Scream 6, starring Melissa Barrera, Jenna Ortega, and Courtney Cox. Written by James Vanderbilt and Guy Busick. Directed by Matt Bertoletti Oplin and Tyler Gillette. Chris, I'm sorry about your boyfriend. All those muscles didn't help.
I always wanted to stick something in you, Tara. Hey everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of How'd You Like That Movie? We're going to be talking about the recent release, number 6 in the Scream franchise, and we also have a fantastic guest on, Krystle Lockey, otherwise known as Little Miss Loomis. Surprise, surprise, she's going to be talking about Scream. She's a published horror and cosplay model from Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. She refers to her concept as a mix of spooky and sexy. She's absolutely obsessed with this film. As I said, she goes by the Scream name Little Miss Loomis. Hey, Krystle, how's it going? Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing well.
So before we get into Scream 6, why don't you tell us a little about yourself, your modeling stuff, as well as like what is it about this fucking franchise that you love so much?
Oh God, I don't even have any idea. I saw it when I was like 10 years old. My mom put it on and we all watched it as a family type thing. I don't know. I've been obsessed with it ever since. It kind of started a love of horror for me. I started watching the movies that were mentioned in the movie and then kind of just went from there and started watching like B movies and anything I could get my hands on. I just became obsessed with horror because of Scream.
And so what about on the modeling side? Like you're a cosplay model as well as a horror model. So like, why don't you give our audience like kind of some background on that, or what's that all about?
Yeah, I would watch movies and stuff and I'd be like, man, I wish I could be this character sometimes, which is really weird. But so then I found a friend that was doing it in Hamilton and I started doing little shoots through there and doing concepts and stuff like that. And it's kind of just blossomed from there. So
Is that Andrea Hunter?
No, I actually started with someone else, and then I met Andrea because they kind of took over photography, like the horror photography scene in Hamilton.
Nice. Yeah, we had Andrea on our show over the October. Yeah, for our Hot Ghouls of Halloween or whatever, which we were going to get you on our show, but unfortunately we had a bit of a scheduling conflict. So we're glad that you could come out now. Are you guys ready to talk about this fucking movie? And I think, Scott, you're cool with like we can kind of talk about Scream as a franchise as well, or what?
Yeah. I would think you'd probably have to do spoilers on this one too, right?
The butler did it? You got to be kidding me.
If you're talking whole franchise, right?
Sure. Let's try and make sure we give our spoiler alerts on this. Yeah, okay, Scott. So why don't you guys take it away?
All right. First, I just want to say it's great to be back.
Yes! I am back! Woo!
I just want to thank everybody who reached out for condolences while I was gone. It meant a lot. But also us here at the How'd You Like That Movie podcast, we would also like to extend our condolences to the friend of the show, Mary Galloway, who also just had a recently passing in her family. So our condolences, Mary. Now, to start, I watched this movie with 2 preteen girls, my daughter and my niece. Watched it in D-Box, but we'll get to that later. I need you guys to help me settle a debate that we had in the car ride home that technically will be spoilers. So Chris and Krystle, can you answer this question? Who's hotter, Chad or Ethan? Because that was my car ride home for 35 straight fucking minutes.
Go ahead, Krystle. I have no input on this fucking subject. So.
Definitely Chad. I think his character's changed since 5. He's definitely less of a douche flute now, in my eyes. Yeah, so definitely Chad.
All right. She's going with the niece. My daughter liked Ethan.
Which one's Ethan?
He's Jack Champion, like the spider guy from Avatar. He was the virgin. He's the virgin.
Oh, like
he's
the
like,
nerd,
oh, I'm gonna.
the nerd guy or whatever,
Yeah,
right?
he's like, I'm gonna die a virgin.
Oh, yeah. I got no input on that. Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about this film. So what are you guys' top line takeaway of the, because when I get into this film, this is going to be the most hacking and slashing that you've seen in this entire franchise. Why don't you guys tell us what you thought of the film, whether you liked it or didn't? Actually, Krystle, let's start with you, since you're kind of the fanatic on this stuff.
I actually really like this one. I went into it thinking the killer was going to be a particular person, and I was extremely disappointed when it wasn't, I guess. According to my boyfriend, he looked at my face when the killers were revealed, and I didn't look too impressed. So, I was disappointed with the last two killer reveals, actually, for the past two movies. I did miss Sydney a lot. I know she wasn't there, but the action of it kind of takes away from that. So I'm not gonna say you realize she's not, like, you don't realize she's not there, because I definitely did, but it still worked without her. That's blasphemy to say, but
we are not amused.
no, I liked it. I thought it was really action packed and really gory. I feel like the kills were a lot more hardcore than they were from 5 or any of the other ones.
And you've seen it twice, right?
A pattern. Yeah, I watched it last night to prepare for this because I had actually seen it the day before it came out. I want to refresh. So I don't know. I'm definitely seeing a pattern with Scream 5 and Scream 6, and I kind of think maybe I might know what direction they're gonna go with 7, but
Yo, tell us. Like, this is the good stuff. This is the hot take kind of action.
okay, well, it's kind of, wouldn't it be kind of spoilery, because it kind of has to do with the killers, kind of. Is that okay to talk about?
Fuck it, I don't care. Scott.
Well, do you want to? Because I have my opinions of where.
Okay, you go first, and then we'll
Yeah.
come back. And listen, if you're listening, there's going to be some spoilers coming up. You can't talk about such a fresh movie and not really get into it without getting into the meat of it, without having some spoilers. So just be aware, if you're listening to this show, maybe watch the film first, or just listen to our show, because our show is probably better. So
You're goddamn right.
go ahead, Scott.
Oh, okay. Well, going into this one, I had pretty low expectations going in. Even though the trailers look great and everything, I was super hesitant because I've been tricked with, the whole movie franchise going to New York before, because I'm assuming we've all seen Jason Goes to Manhattan. So I was worried that, New York was just going to be like the last 15 minutes of this fucking movie. But in my opinion, what the directors did very well was like they made like New York like fucking scary, because
Not bad for Montreal, eh?
I know, but
that's the most French Canadian New York ever.
But in terms of that, like Woodbury, where the rest of the movies were, or Woodsboro, sorry, where the rest of the movies were before, it's like small town USA, right? Like but you take where you have like 5 million fucking residents in there, like a subway. It was super fucking scary. Like that scene is my favorite scene in the movie, is that subway, the two subway kind of sequences where they had the past, like the homage to the horror icons past and present, as well as like fucking just making alleys terrifying again.
Were alleys ever not terrifying? Like, did you suddenly, was there some point in your life where you're like, you know what, I really like fucking alleys. I'm gonna like barbecue in the alley.
I do that all the time.
Make them terrifying again? They're always they're terrifying in the daytime, man. That's where like gang members hang out. That's where drugs are sold. If you've ever watched a PSA from the fucking 80s, that's where all the bad shit in society goes down. And as an adult, it's also where all the good stuff in society goes down.
True.
BJ's here. Get your BJ's. Get your red hot BJ's. Toothless and ready to go. Just $3. $3. Get your BJ's here.
In terms of like, Scream's known for its cold opens, I would say this one is probably the second best cold opening in the franchise. Like,
Sorry, what's the best?
Drew Barrymore.
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah.
Right, but I would say this one because it really, like, they fucked with what you thought was gonna happen, right? Like showing, well, spoilers, showing the killer reveal right then and there, and then now you're following technically the killer around while he's bumping into these characters that you're like, fuck, he's okay. Now you see their relationship now, right? I thought that was going to be the twist until you get to the actual fucking end of the cold open. And you can't tell me you didn't like that, fucking Chris. That was a good cold open.
So I'm going to talk about that cold open because I did like it. And I'm going to talk about that cold open when I get into my criticism of the film. But to just on this point, yes, that is an amazing cold open. When I saw that cold open, I was like, fuck yeah, here we are. We're going to be going toe to toe with the original Scream, which I love. I think it's it changed the genre. It's the original Scream film is a classic film. I would put it up there with like Halloween and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the originals. It's a solid film, which really, can handle a whole lot of, criticism and stand up to it. But I'm going to come back to that cold open. Krystle, so you were saying you feel like feel like you've unlocked the pattern, or you think you know which direction they're going to go. So why don't you lay that out for us?
Yeah. Well, I said it exactly when I walked out of the movie theater after seeing the sixth one. Where Scream 1, the killers were the main character's boyfriend and the goofy friend. I noticed that in Scream 5, it's Sam's main killer, like the main character's boyfriend, and his goofy little friend, or girlfriend, I guess, in this one. Whereas Scream 2 was Mrs. Loomis and Mickey. So Mrs. Loomis was taking revenge, as we all know, for what Sydney did to Billy. I noticed at the end of this one, it was Richie's family taking revenge for what Sam did to Richie. So I'm assuming with 3, it's, or not, well, whereas 3, Roman was the mastermind behind all of it. I'm going to assume that they're going to have somebody in 7 that's going to be saying, oh, well, I set the whole motion for the last 2 movies in play. So that's what I'm thinking it's
like
go.
what do they say? Like 3, you have to go back to the original, and then stuff you thought was true is not true, kind of thing, right? Like, so there's going to be some reveal that was always there, but we just didn't know about, or whatever.
Yeah, I think they might try to play Stu into it too. There's a lot of, I don't know if you've heard it, but there's a lot of stuff going around how they think he's not dead, and they even said some things about him in Scream 6, about him maybe not being dead and stuff like that.
Which one's Stu again? Sorry, everybody has generic fucking names.
Matthew Lillard.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That'd be kind of cool. How can he not be fucking dead?
Well, they do have that little comment in this movie between Kirby and another person. They're like, "Oh, Stu," and they're like, "Well, if you believe he's dead, right?" Because it's all the internet, right?
Sure, but how
a TV fell on his head, man. It didn't like fucking. He wasn't decapitated.
Fair enough. But I mean, then there was a police investigation, and there's been a gazillion movies since then. Like, what did he fucking crawl away and put a body there? Like, how would that even work?
Maybe he's like Hannibal Lecter.
There's actually he was supposed to be the killer in Scream 3, and they changed it.
Really?
Yeah, Matthew Lillard, if you look it up, he's actually said, I was paid for the movie, but they ended up changing it at the end. There was a lot of stuff behind Scream 3. I'm pretty sure that Kevin Williamson didn't even write the original one, that's like the one that's out. It was somebody else. And yeah, there was a lot of problems with it. I think they changed it because there was a school shooting or something. From what I hear, Matthew Lillard was supposed to be in jail, and it was kind of supposed to be like Copycat, where he's making people, like disciples, do his work for him while he's in jail.
Dance, puppets! Dance!
That'd be cool. That'd be cool.
Yeah, so if they were thinking about doing it back when Scream 3 came out, I don't see why he couldn't still be alive now. But
sure, like you said, like whatever plot point they're gonna hinge on, they're like, oh, and surprise, he actually was in a mental institution, and they just covered it up because yada yada yada, government, aliens, whatever.
Yeah.
So listen, first off, as I said, I sat down. I also had the D-Box 3D seats, which I don't know why the fuck I spent $30 for that for this. Like, I guess Avatar 2, I was like, D-Box all the way. And then I was like, there is no point to have fucking D-Box seats for this.
Oh, come on. The shotgun cock?
Not for the extra $10, no. I'm a filmmaker. I don't have money anymore.
Help me, I'm poor.
So I watched that cold open, and like I said, I was like, oh shit. Because I had read that like they go to New York and they kind of flip everything on its head, and it's a way to like really revitalize the franchise. And up until like the end of that cold open, I was like, I was in. I was so bought in. Like the kill was brutal. Chick was being stupid. You see the face, you're like, holy shit. And then like, and I'm not going to spoil what happens, but then as you guys both know, the thing happens. And I was just like, oh my God, like all the rules are out the fucking window. And it was a steady fucking decline from then. Awful acting, awful script writing, fucking the idea that, okay, spoiler alert for those who haven't seen it. The fucking bringing back of not one character, not two characters, but like 4 or 5 fucking characters. The fact that 4 of them went to the same university in New York, I was like, get the fuck out of here. Fine.
But that is explained though.
No, just because you write a line doesn't make it like fucking accurate. It's fucking stupid is what it is. Like the reality of that happening. See,
wait. Just before you continue. So you had no problem with them all going to the same university in Scream 2.
No, that was fucking stupid too. But we're talking about Scream 6 specifically right now, okay? So I totally get why you would bring like, you know, Ortega's character, which, hey, do you think they're named after like the Carpenter, as in like John Carpenter?
John Carpenter and Sam Loomis for,
nice.
You know, yeah. Each character's name is a nod to fucking a horror.
And I do like what you said, like throughout this film, you see like Michael Myers and Jason, and you see all these other like horror characters in the background. I thought that was kind of cool. But like, I can totally see how like Tara goes off to university, Jenna Ortega's character, and Sam follows to protect her. Fine. I can buy into that. I can even still buy into Gale Weathers chasing this shit around. But adding the two other people just being in college, and hottie patati fucking FBI agent, like when she showed up, I felt like I was watching like an early 90s version of like CSI. Like, I'm surprised she wasn't in like fucking Louis Vuitton fucking high heels running around. Everybody is also way too fucking attractive in these fucking franchises. I want to see some fucking regular people get fucking butchered, not just pretty people.
Don't hate me because I'm beautiful.
Not the people in the convenience store?
Yeah, they definitely got all fucking butchered. That's the other thing. Why does nobody just call the fucking police? Just call the fucking police. Call the police right away. Everybody's doing stupid ass shit in this movie. And it's like after 6 fucking franchises, the whole point of the original was like, hey, in scary movies, don't do these stupid things. I'll be back.
Now, wait a minute, hold up. How come every time some scary shit happen and we need to stick together, you white people always say, let's split up?
And then they get killed. Like, that's what made it so great. But they're not even following like that shit. Anyway, I don't know. Fucking you guys go. If I didn't have to do it for this fucking show, I would have walked out 3 times.
Okay.
And I spent $30.
All right. Since we, like, in terms of like spoilers, okay. Here's my issue in terms of the writing that you're saying. So this is going to be spoilers. So if you guys want to fast forward like a couple minutes, that's fine.
Which you can't do if you watch in the movie theater. So wait till it comes out on streaming. Streaming.
Okay. So here. Okay. So Scream 5, Richie's established in Montecito, California. That's where the guy lives. That's where he hooks up with Sam Carpenter, right?
Gotcha.
Quinn states they moved to New York after their brother's death. Correct?
Okay, sure.
So from my understanding of New York real estate, it's fucking exorbitant. So how does somebody afford an old theater that's now their Scream lair, plus an apartment for the dad, plus an apartment for the sister, and tuition for the son?
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
Like, spoilers, this fucking cop was on the take with the mob.
Oh,
like, that's the
100%
only explanation this guy
drugs.
can afford all this fucking shit. And I'm like, this seems pretty like, what I thought originally was, in terms of, it was going to be a throwback to Scream 5, in which this lair, because they were talking about how, like, there's extreme fans that love the Stab franchise and want to bring it together, and this was their like pooling of money kind of thing that they bought it. But to find out it's just fucking Richie and his family, you're like,
Get the fuck out!
that was my biggest letdown in terms of like the reveal.
See, and on that topic, and then we're going to bring Krystle back in here, is that so when they originally lay that out, they're like, oh, these two Atlanta rich kids. That to me was actually the best way to solve that problem. Rich kids from somewhere else, their parents give them oodles of money, they buy stuff. But yeah, as soon as you're like NYPD cop, he's not even FBI. He's just like local fucking beat cop making 30 grand a year. And it's like, he has all this shit. And it's like, so yeah, maybe he's corrupt. I mean, the LAP or the NYPD is known for its corruption scandals. So maybe that, I don't know. Krystle, what did you think? Hold on. Okay, go ahead, Scott.
I was gonna say, it makes me think that maybe Dewey was on the take too, because I don't see Dewey giving up all these fucking sheets of evidence from all these previous movies, and if he's the lead cop on every single fucking one, right?
So he
you figure he'd be like,
hey,
where's the knife from Billy Loomis's? We're gonna need that for trial.
You don't need a trial if everybody's dead.
Well, if the other guy, if Stewie's alive, you're gonna need it.
So will you get it after trial?
I'm just saying.
I don't know, Krystle. So did you have any issue with this film?
Like I said, I didn't like the killer reveal at all.
Who did you think it was going to be? Or who did you want it to be?
I was hoping one of them was Stu, to tell you the truth. Just the way they, like, with all the masks and how they were all decrepit and they were throwing it back so much to like the original movie. I don't know why I was hoping it would be him, but in my little brain, I was like, oh, could be him. So yeah.
Was it the dialogue when they're like, you've never had a killer like me before?
Yeah, and the thing he was doing where he cleaned off the blood on the knife, they hadn't done that for a while, and that was Stu that was always doing that. So I was like, oh, maybe it is him. Like, I don't know how they would know that Stu particularly did that unless Gail wrote it in her book, and I don't know if Gail ever saw him do that, though. That's the thing. There's little details that if you really get into it, you're like, how did they know this? Like, I remember I heard someone say, how did they know, the new killers know that Gail had never talked to Ghostface on the phone? Like, how would they know that?
But didn't she in Scream 2? Wasn't she the one on the phone chasing when Randy died?
When it's
she
her
was the
and
one...
Randy and Dewey? Is that what we're
in Scream
talking
2
about,
when
or?
Randy gets killed in the van by Mrs. Loomis? It's Gail on the phone with Dewey chasing down the other people on the...
Oh no,
everybody...
they called Gail's phone, but she wouldn't pick it up. I think Randy picked it up. And then they were running around trying to find who was calling them.
Got it.
So other than
I don't know. I really liked the shrine. I loved it, actually.
Yeah, but you probably like it because you're like, oh, I want that shrine.
Yeah. Yeah, seeing everybody's costumes, and I don't know, it just made me so like nostalgically happy. It definitely raises questions like, how the heck did he get all that stuff out of there without anyone noticing that it was gone? That's a lot of stuff to have. Like, and some of them aren't like small items that he could just put in his pocket and walk out with. Like, how'd you get a friggin' whole ass TV out of there? I saw the cardboard cutout that Jerry O'Connell's character was on in Scream 2. How the hell did you get that out of there? Like, I don't know. It raises more questions, but if you're like just a fan and you see it and it makes you happy, then you probably don't think about those things. But
so here's, like, in terms of mine, where I think they're gonna go. I think this film, if it is what I think, and you put this into a Radio Silence trilogy, so the middle one, I think the third one is actually going to be Jenna Ortega's character as the killer, in which they're now going after, like, I think these sisters are going to embrace the fucking Loomis, even though she's not a Loomis, and then they're going after Sydney and her family. So we get to see somebody like stab Patrick Dempsey. But I think that's where they're going, is because this one was really foreshadowing one of the survivors cracking and becoming the killer.
So even that, so at the at the end, when Jenna Ortega's character is standing there with so it's like Sam and Tara are standing there, and Sam is about to kill dude, and she's like, well, my father was a killer, but I'm not. The best thing that should have happened is if Jenna Ortega was like, but I can be, and then she fucking finishes him off. That's what I was expecting. And then she still fucked that up. Like, oh, but you went after my family. Like, fuck that, man. Like, it would have been so cool to watch those two sisters just stab that motherfucker up.
True. But I think, like, if what I think is going to go, and I hope it does, because then it technically, if it is the Radio Silence trilogy, Richie's movie is then fulfilled, where you have one killer going through each movie now, right? Like Sam is the Ghostface killer.
No,
and that's what they're...
Scott, the next one's going to be Ghostface Killer goes back to colonial times and fights an indigenous young woman who manages to rise above her station and take on Ghostface Killer and the Predator. Boom.
I would pay money.
$1 billion franchise right there.
I would pay money for that.
Shut up and take my money.
I would 100% pay money for that. Ghostface against Predator. Come on.
What's your favorite alien movie?
Who's your favorite face hugger?
Who is your daddy and what does he do?
But yeah, that's where I think it's gonna go. It's gonna be one of these characters finally cracking. And and I think with the reveal they had in this one, you'll know from the beginning they're the killers, kind of thing, and just follow them all the way through and see where that ends. Because I can see them going after, especially, even though Neve Campbell wasn't in this movie, her character's referenced a shit ton, right? Like they made sure to make sure that, Sydney's constantly mentioned. I think Sydney's name is mentioned more than fucking Sam's name. Like,
well, and the writers have talked about how they'd love to like bring her back. So if they can figure out the financials in like the next film or whatever, they would love to bring her back. And because they didn't kill her off, like, oh, and she died of a heart attack, because they make reference to her just like having her piece, but she's not dead. They have left that door open, which I think just from an IP perspective was smart, right? Because if they can come back with the right dollars to bring Neve Campbell back, they can still make it happen as opposed to having to like raise her from the dead as a character, right? So.
Which, yeah, like it's just reference like, hey, Sydney's not coming. She's making sure her sons and husband are okay, which I think is super hilarious because the husband's supposed to be the cop from Scream 3.
Yeah.
But Sydney needs to make sure he's okay. I love it. I fucking
Krystle,
love it.
Which is your favorite? Like, where does this rank in your list of like favorite Scream movies?
Probably fourth, I think. The first is my favorite. My second favorite's 5. Third favorite's 2, then this one, and then 3, and then 4.
So 4 is your least favorite scary movie in this trilogy.
That one really made me mad.
Which one's 4? 3 is Hollywood. 4 is
Emma Roberts.
Oh, that's right.
4 is also my least favorite, and I think it's only because they boggled that ending, because it should have been her getting away with it, and I think that would have changed it too, because technically that's what they kind of did with this one, right? Where the survivor, now you have conspiracy theories on the internet where the survivor's the killer, right? They're like, no, she actually did it, Richie was thing. And just imagine if that was fucking Emma Roberts' character going through.
Yeah, I had not watched anyone other than Scream until we were getting ready for the show. So I had to go watch all of these films. So I think Scream obviously is the best one. I do agree that 5 is the best like film in general outside of the original. And then they all kind of just fall apart for me after that. Because sometimes they get a bit silly. Although I love how Scream 2 reminds us how Jada Pinkett Smith has never been a good actor, ever in her entire life. The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing Will Smith to like throw his entire career away over a joke. So
Wait.
Go,
I gotta
go.
put the disclaimer. The comments just made are Chris, and Chris is alone. So if Will Smith wants to come and slap Chris to get his wife's name out of his mouth, that is greatly great.
Is it like
but not this
Candyman if I
face.
go like Jada
Not
Pinkett
this
Smith,
face.
Jada Pinkett Smith, does she appear? And Will Smith is like, bazam, bam, and fucking slap.
Quite possibly, man. Quite possibly.
So what I was hoping was going to happen is we go to New York, and I actually thought, and this is actually, I don't know if Scott and I talked about this or I talked about it with somebody else who's a better friend of mine. That the same way I would have like actually rebooted the Halloween franchise is I would have gotten rid of like all the Laurie Strode, all that. I would have just had someone kind of show up like in the original Halloween on Halloween dressed as Michael Myers and have it where Michael Myers is like we're in the real world, so we know about the Halloween films. So same with Scream, we know about Stab, and it's just a random person just shows up and starts fucking serial killing people. Like goes super dark, like go Fincher-esque. And I mean, considering that James Vanderbilt, which he's like a Vanderbilt, like the rich family, Titanic, Lusitania kind of thing. He was the writer on Zodiac. So imagine going like that super dark, serious, like the way Scream was, it's a kind of a serious movie. Like they're talking about horror films, but they're not joking, throwing it away. Like all the other films in this franchise tend to treat Scream almost as like a joke, where Scream treated itself like a very serious horror movie, which I think is funny because I think it's in 5 or in 4 where they talk about elevated horror. I think it's in 5. Scream, the original Scream, is actually like truly an elevated horror film and a slasher film at the same time.
Do you just want me to agree with you? Because fuck. Like, sure. You're so smart, Chris. Oh my God.
Like, but wouldn't it be cool if someone just showed up in New York and started fucking murdering people? Or you killed like Jenna Ortega's character, sort of like the original Scream first. Goes to college, fucking just decapitates her.
Yeah, but
and
that
then
was
it's just
the fin of the last one, right? Because that she was the cold open, but she was the cold open that survived off the last one. It's like I don't think you can really do it again because then it's just fucking.
Yeah, but don't have her
shit.
survive. Just like fucking chop her fucking head right off. And then just have the serial killer just kill a bunch of random fucking people.
Maybe.
Because
but that's the thing. In reality,
then you can have Ghostface in Paris. That's romantic stabbing. Ching, ching. Hey, hey, Chris, go ahead.
I was gonna say in this one, technically, that's what you had. Like, again, spoilers. All the kills, majority of them were characters you had no idea who the fuck they were.
Yeah, and then you have 4 fucking characters that fucking survived from fucking the second movie, the film before. So
right, because the boyfriend that got killed, like with the scene that's behind me, like you see him dead in the fucking bathtub. He wasn't
a boyfriend, he was just a fuck buddy. Okay, let's not give that guy like status that he didn't have. They weren't having those types of conversations.
Well, maybe, he sent some texts. They went on a couple dates.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Maybe
didn't he say something like, "Who the fuck is Lance?" or something like that? So clearly there was other dudes.
Yeah, but he thought he was in a committed relationship. It doesn't matter what she thought. He thought she was the
maybe he thought that she was monogamous. She was not. She was sex positive though, and since she was like murder positive too.
But yeah, like you don't even meet him. He's a distilled voice, and then you see him dead in the bathtub, right? And then who else was it? The therapist that you only had one scene with.
Which I actually, at first when I saw the therapist, I'm like, is that John Carpenter? Like, I actually thought that would have been super cool, like to take like an old horror director and then cast him as like a minor character and then butcher him. Or like kill off like Robert Englund or something like that. Like have him as like a janitor. Oh my God. Yeah. Have him as like a janitor or something like that. And then just cut Robert Englund's like fucking guts out or something like that.
So you're literally taking the scene from Scream 1 when she runs into the janitor who's dressed like fucking Freddy Krueger.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken, was Wes Craven.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I think you're right. It was Wes Craven. Yeah.
Yeah. So fuck you, Chris. Like, get an original idea.
This film made me feel very much like the Scary Movie franchise. Like it got silly to the point that I felt like I was watching Scary Movie, but with less boobs.
I can see your feet.
Okay, turn around. Close your eyes. No peeking.
Yeah, maybe, but I still think this is
How can you
like,
say maybe? That they're my
no,
personal
no,
feelings
like
on the
I think,
film. It's not
yeah,
maybe.
yeah, no, no, I'm saying like maybe, like I might agree with you, but I still think this one's gonna be like this one's the setup, right? This one's the setup movie for hopefully like the big finale. That's Scream 7. But
They talked about
this
how
movie did
they
have the
want this
best.
franchise to go for like 20 fucking years. Like they want to milk this IP until there's no blood left inside of it. It's got a 77% from the critics. It's got a 92% from the audience. It's got 89 million so far against a $35 million budget, so it's definitely crossed its marketing threshold. Do you think it's going to keep, like, it was number one at the box office when it came out? Krystle, do you think it's going to like keep bringing in fans? I mean, people like you have seen it twice already, right? So are you going to go back for a third, or?
Yeah, I definitely think they're gonna make another one. I did hear what you just said, where the director said they'd like to keep it going for as long as possible. Hopefully they don't do that for too long and make it stale and unoriginal like the other ones we're getting. Yeah, so I'd love to see another one if they make it.
Give us your okay, you're they bring you in, they're like, I heard you're a fucking big deal. Your name's Little Miss Loomis. What does Scream 7 look like? Give us, I'm sure you've got this fucking mapped out in your head.
I don't have I don't have an area or anything mapped out yet. I would love to see, like I said, them bring back like Stu or somebody you thought. Well, I don't think they can really bring back any of the other killers because they were all pretty much shot in the head, but they managed to bring Billy back in a way. So I don't know. I would love to see Stu come back because it's been a big like rumor between like the Scream community, and right now the sixth movie caused like a big fight with people in the Scream community. Like, stop saying he's alive, he's dead. He had a TV thrown on his head, blah blah blah. And it's, I don't know. I would love to see him come back for sure and be one of the killers, or at least be the one orchestrating it or something like that. That would be amazing in my opinion.
Like
but,
a Hannibal Lecter character in jail, fucking basically puppet mastering the whole thing.
Yeah, even if they didn't even go the jail route and it was something completely different, even like bringing him in any way and saying he was masterminding the whole thing, I don't know, I think it would be amazing. But
so as a fan of Loomis's character, so how do you feel about the fact that they still are using visual imagery, but it's like the current actor? Like he just keeps, because he keeps getting older, like he's a real person. Like in 6, I was like, you should have just gone to like voiceover, because he keeps looking, and no amount of makeup is going to make him look like 23 or whatever he was in Scream, right? But you really like him. You really like the actor as well. Do you like the use of his like current image? Like go start twist the fucking age.
I rewatched 5 last night too, because I hadn't seen it in a while. I noticed he looked younger in 5 than he did in 6, which would be obvious because he does keep getting older, but I thought they did a pretty good job making him look halfway decent. Like they didn't use like I think I read they didn't use prosthetics or anything like that. They just put makeup on him. I think they could have covered up his 5 o'clock shadow better. But I think he still looked pretty young. Like I know he's like older now, but I think it worked. Like in 5, I think it worked. I remember when I saw him for the first time in 5, I like actually literally screamed out loud. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe they managed to bring him back. Like I was so freaking happy.
So I'm assuming, he must have like a rabid fan base, like people like you. Like, are you part of like a community of people that are just like, I'm going to use the word obsessed, because like I said, it's literally your fucking Instagram handle. So
yeah, there's definitely groups towards him. I've actually met him before too. And it was like, I thought I was going to die when I met him. I was like, oh my God. And I was acting like a total, like, I don't know what's a good word, chud. I was like, so
fangirl
like
or whatever.
Hmm?
Did you totally like you've totally fangirled out?
Oh yeah. I remember I went all 3 days to meet him, and I went in a different costume each time. I think the
Wait,
first
so you met him
time
3 times?
Yeah, I went and saw him 3 days in a row. And the second day I was Sydney, and the third day I was Billy Loomis. And every single picture I took with him, he did a different pose with me, and he was so nice about it. He was complimenting my tattoos. He showed his daughter my tattoo, actually. I don't know. He's super nice. I love him as a character. I don't know. I fell in love with him when I was 10, which is retarded, but and it's kind of just stuck.
So Scott, you were about to like yell at me when I was like, "Hey, guest, why don't you actually talk on our show?" So what were you going to yell at me about?
I was gonna say, one, it's good to see that Chris actually listens to our guests, because if you rewind to the beginning of the fucking episode, she said, "This is what I would love. This is where I thought it was gonna go, and this is where I would want it to go." Where she said Stu.
Yeah,
And then we
No, but
got
I was just
into it
trying to
more.
like get a whole. I thought maybe she would have a whole story narrative. You know what I mean? So heaven
no
forbid,
plot line yet.
no plot line yet. I'm surprised.
She's
I
like,
figured you would have like some
faded
fan fiction written
phone
up
rings.
there.
But
Do you guys have anything else you want to talk about Scream 6, specifically you, Krystle? Okay.
I'm not sure.
Well, because this is a like a radio kind of medium, right? So we can't have long pauses. I figured Scott might jump in there, so I had to say something.
Well, all I'm gonna say is I did enjoy it. I do think people should watch it. Now, I do agree. Like, I have no idea why they did this in 3D, because that was the only tickets I could find too. Like, in terms of showing, was 3D. I don't think it needed it, but yeah, I do recommend watching it. Or you can wait your obligatory 45 days, and I'm sure it'll be on Paramount Plus then, and then you can watch it from home. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I think you should watch it. And that's about it, because Chris's opinion doesn't really matter.
Hey, Krystle, do you know if you can get Stab merch?
Oh, like the Stab movie?
Yeah.
I know there are people who make stuff like that. I've seen like posters for it online. Usually if you go on Instagram or Etsy or stuff like that, you can usually find Stab merch. People make that stuff.
Because that'd be kind of cool to have like a Stab t-shirt. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, you could probably find that on Etsy, no problem.
Well, thank you so much for coming out to our show, Krystle. I know we were supposed to have you on in October, so it's great to be able to get you back in kind of like the dead of winter here in Ontario. And you, other than your Instagram, is there any, and we'll put that in our show notes, is there anywhere else you want people to follow you? Do you have Twitter, anything like that?
I have a Twitter, but I like never use it.
So just stick with the Instagram?
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your day. And you'll probably go watch fucking Scream 6 again.
Thanks for having me on. It was fun.
Thank you.
All right, ciao.
Bye.
So, Scott, before we get into our after show, what I want to say is James Brunelli, or sorry, not James Brunelli. I got my quote in the right spot.
I thought we could literally go an episode without you, spewing somebody else.
Anyway,
and shit.
So James Brunelli from Real Views. As has been the problem with recent Screams, the movie is undone by lazy writing, bad acting, and too much reliance on meta references.
Sure. But I will say this in terms
Why
of
didn't you let me fucking finish on that?
No, because this guy doesn't fucking matter. Like, to me, he doesn't I've never heard of Real Views. I've told you this before. Unless it's like LA Times, like, it has to be respectable fucking thing, right? I don't need Joe Blow website, because literally you have Joe Blow podcast here to spew shit that doesn't really matter. But I'll say this in terms of your comment about like the directors and stuff wanting to milk this fucking franchise. I just think it's funny, because that was the whole fucking plot point of the last one, where they're like, we need to make a movie because they fucking have milked this fucking franchise, where the Stab whatever 8 or 12, it was a gold ghost face with muscles and a chainsaw chasing people, right?
Yeah, so I would say just wait till it comes out on Netflix or Paramount Plus, because then you can go on your phone when you're bored and you don't have to spend $30 on seats that move for a shotgun blast. So,
Oh, but that is a funny story.
fuck, man, you won't let me have the last word on the show.
Never. Buddy, I've been gone for 2 weeks. Like, I need the last word. That
Scott,
is funny.
look behind you. There's Ghostface.
But when that thing happened, my niece wasn't fucking expecting it. So when the seat fucking vibrated, she actually screamed out in the theater and jumped from the D box, and that was the highlight of that fucking movie for me.
I mean, for Scott's wife will only go to films that are D-box because, well, you know.
Yeah, it reminds her of home because she likes the D box. And that is our wrap for the day. Please like and subscribe to this podcast. Tell your friends. If you want to get a hold of us, reach us at the www.howdyoulikethatmovie.com.
Well, it's good to have you back on the show, Scott. Do you have anything else before we get out of here?
No, it's just good to be back. I was hoping to extend this to 2 hours to be like, fuck you, Chris. Like, you don't have long episodes without me, but I can't do it. Sorry.
Okay, well, I'm going to stop recording now.
Yeah, bye.
Recording stopped.
Hey, so do you want to do the next John Wick when it comes out? Oh, fuck. Did he disappear? Scott! Oh, I guess we're done the show. Production by Rod Shaver, Vader Monkey Productions.